Well, the short answer is no, it's not better. I mean, the dome style clay or brick pizza ovens have been around since ancient Greece and Italy, and then other areas in the Levant and the Mediterranean around the same time. So there's a reason why 2 to 2,500 years of history we still have a very similar style oven. That's because it works really well. For one thing, the semi-spherical shape of the oven allows for quite good air circulation. It comes in, it flows in, it comes back out either a chimney or can come back out the door depending on the design. So it gets a good draw and can draw in lots of oxygen to feed the fire. Another thing is the dome style of the oven captures the heat up at the top and then it radiates it back down. So you get a nice even heating from the top and the bottom, the same way elements in modern ovens do. It can do that just by its shape alone. Generally, they also have really good thermal mass. They're made with bricks and clay, and modern ones are made with fire bricks and other really good insulating materials. So they hold a lot of heat and they hold it for a really long time. So once you get it lit, it's going to stay lit for a long time. Also, let's face it, they look really cool. However, the longer answer is I actually think this oven might actually be better for most people most of the time, and I'm going to try to make a case for that right now. So, the first real advantage of this offset style pizza oven, by the way, this isn't my design, this came from Chef Steps. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But the first thing that it wins on is price, hands down. Now, I got mine for $24. I did get very lucky. I found these bricks at a neighbor's house. He had been doing a demo in his backyard, and I noticed them when I went biking by one day, and I struck up a conversation. And he said, yep, take as many of them as you want. You're actually doing me a favor. You're getting them off my property. So that worked out really well. These two pavers, Sky got these on Facebook Marketplace, and they were $12 each. So we were really lucky to get those for such a cheap price. Now, even if you buy all the materials new, it comes out to about between $100 to $200, depending on where you are in the world and the materials are used, and all those things are obviously variable. But still, I mean, there's no comparison. The cheapest dome style oven that I could find here in New Zealand starts at about $2,000, and they go up from there. So it absolutely wins on price. Another area where I think it just absolutely wins is in the ease of construction and also repair if needed. This thing took me probably an hour to an hour and a half the first time I built it. I've redone it a few times because I've moved it around a few times. You can see it's on a bit of a lean. It's sinking down here. I need to eventually take it apart and build up the dirt underneath these pavers to level it back out, but it's fine. It's been like this for a while, and that's something really easy for me to do because I just take it apart. There's no mortar. It's just stacked together like Legos. And so if you ever played with Lego, which everyone can, you can build this oven. The dome style ovens themselves, you can either pay a lot for someone to come do it, or the DIY ones that people make themselves as well too are very complicated. The type of engineering required to do it is really special, and again, they're great, there's no denying that. But if you want one and you want it quickly and you want something that's pretty easy that anyone basically can do, this is your one for sure. Perhaps my favorite thing about this oven is just how quickly it actually comes up to temperature. I can be ready to cook pizza in about 45 minutes. Now, it didn't start that way. I've learned over time how to heat it up quicker. I've got some good tips on how to do that as well. The dome style ovens that I've used generally take between 2 to 3 hours to come up to temperature. That's a lot more wood. It's a lot more cost involved in getting that wood. Now, if you're having an all-day event and you're hosting a big party, then that makes sense because once it comes up to temperature, it's going to hold its heat more, and your wood cost to keep it higher to keep it hotter, is going to go down. But when it comes to just regular use, I mean, I use this thing probably on average every 2 weeks, and that's year round. And I can get it up to temp quickly, I can cook, and then I'm done at the end. So there's definitely a savings when it comes to the amount of wood that you burn. It doesn't heat as evenly as the dome ovens, but the way that I've learned, the tips that I've learned on how to actually heat it have also helped me learn how to actually heat it evenly as well too, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. This last feature is not necessarily going to be an advantage for everyone unless you happen to have an OCD style brain like mine. but I generally find that squares and rectangles have a bit more of an efficient shape. I know the jars and things in my pantry, I almost always try to buy square glass jars if I can because they fit together well. In this particular place here, having it be a rectangle actually fits into this spot a bit better. Also, someone pointed out the other day that it has a pretty cool modern look, and I hadn't thought about that, but it does kind of look kind of cool. Better than the dome style? Probably not. I mean, I think those look really awesome, but yeah, this works really well for us, so I do find its particular shape to be an advantage for our particular situation. So I've made one major change to my pizza oven from the original design. I'm going to pull the lid off and I'm going to show you guys in more detail what it actually is. It's not huge, but for me it made a really big difference. So this is something that you could consider if you're going to make one yourself. Sit. So I'll bring you guys in a little bit closer so you can actually see what I mean. Let me get this off the tripod here. So you can see here, see how the gap runs the full length of the pizza oven. In the original design, it's only just it runs the width of one brick, so there's basically one little narrow chimney, so you don't get the gaps on the sides. I found I just wasn't getting enough draw, and when I put the gap along the whole sides, I got quite a bit more airflow. Now I know there's a formula out there for the ratio or relationship between the opening and the flue, you know, as you have in a chimney. I don't know what that is. I'd really like to know. If someone knows, if they can tell me below how to find that. I've always been really curious. I experimented at one point with actually having vertical bricks kind of here and here, but ultimately in the end having the wider gap compared to the size that I have was what worked for me. Now I did have to do one thing here. I actually had to cut some bricks to fill that gap in. Because I went the width, I actually had to cut these, and I actually had to cut them at a bit of an angle. I don't know if you can see there, because my my paver is actually cut at a slight angle there, so I had to cut these with an angle grinder to fit it in that gap so I didn't lose air. But that was pretty easy to do, and it was absolutely worth it. So if you're having trouble with your draw, maybe try that and see if that works out for you. Another little improvement that I made to helping out with the airflow was I put this old grill grate in here. I just salvaged it from an old barbecue that I had, and I decided to try it out about 6 months ago. It's not much of a gap, but you can see that little bit really does help out, especially when you're just getting the fire going. So if you have something like this lying around and you're struggling with airflow, certainly give that a go and see if that helps. The step that's really going to give you the best results when it comes to using your pizza oven and getting a really great result is the way that you manage your wood. I have been experimenting with this over time, and I've kind of come up with a system that I think is working really well. It's kind of a 3-part system. So to start with, once I get the fire lit, I burn pallet wood, or any type of pine that I have, any type of nice, really dry pine, because it produces a lot of flame, it burns really quickly and easily, and it gets a lot of heat infused into the oven early on. So I'll burn that for about 20 to 25 minutes. Then I swap over to hardwood. This is a eucalypt of some sort. I think it's blue gum, that's silver birch. Doesn't really matter what type of hardwood you have, but you're going to get a nice bed of embers once you burn those, and there's less saps and resins generally in the hardwood, which the black smoke that comes off of these is really great for getting the oven going, but it's not so great when it comes to actually cooking the pizza. It's going to taste pretty gross. And then the 4th tip is this wood here. You've probably been wondering why there's been wood in the actual cooking chamber as opposed to the fire chamber, and that's because this is what I call kiln dried finishing wood. It's not really kiln dried, but at the end of each time I use the pizza oven, once the embers have died down to quite low, I'll shove all this little small pieces of hardwood in here, and they'll overnight as the heat in the pizza oven falls and the airflow continues throughout, you get a kind of a kiln drying process. So this stuff is really super dry, and I finish with this wood right before I put a pizza in. I'll pop these on top of the embers that have been built up with that wood. This produces almost no smoke because it's so dry, and this is all hardwood. There's no sap or anything in it as well. And that allows the flames to come up the back of the oven and kind of lick over the top. So when I said before about how this isn't as the thermal distribution is different than this in the dome ovens, the way you account for that, or the way I've accounted for that, is by having this super dry small pieces of hardwood where I can put on at the end. They just immediately burst into flame with almost no smoke, and you get flames coming over the top, and then you get a nice heat coming from the top as well as from the deck on the bottom. So that's really kind of unlocked the best type of cooking for me in this oven. It's going to vary depending on where you are, the type of draw that your pizza oven has, the type of wood that you have. But experiment, play around with your wood, and try different things if you're having trouble with getting even heat or getting airflow and all those other kind of things as well. Before we get out of here, folks, I feel it's important to give you a quick little safety disclaimer. I've been very lucky that I haven't really had any problems with my pizza oven. You can see the cracks in the deck of my oven there. Because my pavers are reinforced with rebar, it hasn't actually broken. But these materials are not necessarily designed to take heat, and I have heard reports of people having the pavers break and the bricks kind of shatter and shoot things out. So you do need to be really careful there, especially if it's wet. Before I ever put a big fire in mine, I built a couple small fires to help drive off the moisture, and I do keep it covered at all times so it doesn't get, when not in use, so that it doesn't get wet. So just be careful there, guys, as always. But other than that, I hope I've convinced you on the merits of this oven. If you're only going to have one, guys, this is the one you want for all the reasons that I've listed. I'm obsessed with pizza, and I intend to have lots of ovens, but this is the one that got me interested in making videos and making outdoor pizza, and I absolutely love it. And I hope that you guys make one and love it yourselves too. If you are as obsessed with pizza as I am, go check out some of my other videos. I've got one on my dough recipe, which I think is really fantastic. I've been working on that for years. I make my own cheese, and I can show you a video on that, and then you can see one on the workflow that I actually go through where I make a pizza from start to finish, and you can kind of see all the pieces come together. So hope you have a great day, and we'll see you around sometime. Cheers, guys. I can sit on my cooking stools. Cooking stools?